decades, the president is very willing to work with Republicans to do things that benefit middle-class families. I think, at least there are early indications from some Republicans are that they may be interested in doing some things with the president cooperatively to advance the cause of middle-class families and to expand and enhance their economic opportunities.
Okay.
The thing that we have seen, Allison, over the last 6 years is we've seen Republicans consider it to be in their own political interest to actually oppose every single thing that the president tried to support and everything that the president tried to advance.
Yes.
So the question is has the deck been reshuffled in such a way that Republicans are now in a position to say, you know what, there are a couple of things that we agree on that would benefit middle-class families. Let's take action on them. And that really, I think, is the open question, both for the remainder of this year, but also in over the course of the next 2 years.
Will the president use executive action to get his vision for immigration reform?
Well, Allison, you're right. There are some Republicans who have come together with Democrats on Capitol Hill in the United States Senate, I might add, to pass legislation, bipartisan legislation, that would address so many of the problems that are plaguing our broken immigration system right now. They would address these problems in a way that would actually create jobs, that would reduce the deficit, that would expand economic opportunity, that would strengthen the border and strengthen our homeland security. This is a common sense piece of legislation. It represents a compromise, as the president acknowledged yesterday. It's not a piece of legislation that he would have written himself, but it is certainly something that reflects the principles that he's laid out. There's bipartisan ground around this. And frankly, what we'd still like to see, Allison, is the House of Representatives take up this piece of legislation. If they do, we know it'll pass. There's enough bipartisan support for it in the House. The only reason it hasn't gotten a vote is we've seen House Republicans block it. And not really for a very good reason, I might add.
Is the president going to do something different in terms of his style of embracing Republicans moving forward?
Well, Allison, I guess I have to admit that I would be surprised if Republicans were going to say that they somehow were offended or didn't sort of feel that the president was affectionate enough, and that for that reason they were going to refuse to do their jobs. I don't think that's the position that the vast majority of Republicans are going to take. I think the vast majority of Republicans, like the president, are pretty pragmatic. And I take them at their word when they say that they're going to sit down with the president and try to find common ground and try to make progress on behalf of the American people. What the president, I think, was pretty clear about in the context of yesterday's news conference was that he's going to sit down with Republicans. In fact, he's invited them here to the White House at the end of this week, tomorrow, in fact, where he'll sit down with the 16 highest-ranking members of the United States Congress, Democrats and Republicans, members of the House and members of the Senate, to plot out the way forward for the next 2 months and to start talking about what we can get done over the course of the next 2 years.